Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll just give it another minute just for any latecomers, and then we'll kick off.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I know you can do
It's mostly about hopefully I've got some trouble getting my shots during haven't we done that?
I see you on this one just recently.
Oh really?
But that's, you know, the good and the breathing.
Well, good morning everyone. I think we'll kick off now. We've probably got everyone who's coming. I'll just run through a few housekeeping things before we get into the presentation. So there are emergency exits just outside the door if you turn left, and if you turn right at the front entrance, which you all probably came through. And the emergency assembly point is in the car park out the front of the building. Toilets are, if you go right and then left in the foyer, they're down the far end of the foyer. Now, I am live streaming this presentation, so at the moment it's just focused on this area here. At the end of the presentation, I'm just going to invite a few people if they'd like to say a few words. So if you don't want to be on the live stream, just let me know, there's no problem and I'll stop it. But at the moment, no one in the audience are in the shot, it's just whoever comes up here. And there will be morning tea served at 11 a.m. So I'd like to thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for coming, and I'd like to thank some of our distinguished guests down here, Councillor Cheryl Steinhardt, the Environment Portfolio Chair for the Lockyer Valley Regional Council, and Councillor Tim McMahon, who holds the same position with the Toowoomba Regional Council. So thank you both for coming. I'd also like to acknowledge BirdLife Australia board member Judith Hoyle, who is up the back there. Thank you for coming, Judith. And BirdLife Southern Queensland Chair Sheena Gilman, and I believe Neil, where are you, Sheena? Yeah, and Neil's here too. Yeah, thank you both for coming. BirdLife Southern Queensland have been a great supporter of the Darling Downs Group and myself for quite a while now. And I'd also like to acknowledge and thank Diane Guthrie from Lucy, the Lockyer Uplands Catchment Incorporated. And they actually ran the program Blue Cap, which was the kind of forerunner, I suppose, to the Birds on Farm project that we have now. A few apologies, I'll just read out a couple, or just acknowledge a couple. Professor Hugh Possingham, who has a prior commitment. Now, Hugh's got a great interest in this project, and I've had many lengthy conversations with him about how we can maximise the value of the data we're getting out of here, so Hugh's been very helpful there. And Roger Yench, who a lot of you will know, he's a fantastic ornithologist. He has another commitment at the moment too, and Roger, I mean, man, what he doesn't know, and I've just learned so much from Roger, and he's such a decent person. His help or fingerprints or positiveness is all over this project, so it's a shame Roger can't be here at the moment. And also the National Manager for the Birds on Farm project for all of BirdLife Australia, Margot Orbeck, who's in Canberra and can't be here. And look, just a few thank yous too before we kick off. David Isler from ABC Radio, where have you gone, David? Down the back, yeah. So I think I emailed everyone. David's very keen to do some interviews, and so I'd like to thank you, David, for coming and your interest in environmental issues in our local area. Steve Wilson and the Serengeti Print Group, these lovely banners that you see, they've done them at cost for BirdLife as a donation, so Steve's been a great help with that. And I really want to thank all of the landholders and volunteers who've come on board with the project. So it only exists because of what you're doing, and you're only doing it because you care, and that's just a wonderful thing, so thank you. And Alice McNeil, down the back there, who a lot of you would have met. Alice just started with BirdLife just a couple of months ago, and so she works with me on the project, and I think we make a really good team. It's going very well, so thank you, Alice. Okay, so what I'll do now is just give you a presentation on the project, and then I'll just invite a few people if they'd like to speak. They're quite welcome to come up here, okay? So just an acknowledgement, BirdLife Australia acknowledges the traditional owners of the country on which we live and work, and we pay our respects to their elders past and present. We recognise and are grateful for the immense contribution of Indigenous people to the knowledge and conservation of Australia's birds. And I think I've covered all of the thank yous and apologies. We have a message now from Queensland Environment Minister Andrew Powell. He recorded a video which I'll play now.
G'day and welcome to the official launch of the first Birds on Farms project in Queensland. Our state is the most biologically diverse in Australia, home to almost 3/4 of the nation's native bird species. In fact, birds contribute more to Queensland's terrestrial vertebrate biodiversity than mammals, reptiles or amphibians. The Lockyer-Toowoomba Birds on Farms project is the first in Queensland, leading the way for our state and one of just 7 projects in Australia. It is the fastest growing Birds on Farms project with more than 50 expressions of interest from landowners since it started in January this year. This is a testament to the love of birds in the region, and we're proud to acknowledge the passionate farmers and private landholders who want to help with conservation of species like the vulnerable glossy black cockatoo. Rural properties are critical habitats for native birds and other wildlife, and play an extremely important role in maintaining Queensland's biodiversity. That's why community-based monitoring programs and citizen science projects are so valuable. The Crucible government also offers support in this space through the programs like our grassroots environmental grants, which can benefit threatened species and ecosystems while improving habitat connectivity. We are committed to protecting our natural wonders and preserving Queensland's spectacular natural environment for generations to come. So thank you for your involvement today. I wish you the best of luck and look forward to making this movement take flight right across the state.
That's great. So I thank the Minister for that. We also, Alice, if you'd like to come forward, we have a statement from Senator Larissa Water, the leader of the Australian Greens. She didn't record a video, but she's got a statement here which Alice will now read out. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. I'm sorry I couldn't join you all in Gatton today, but I want to thank BirdLife Australia for the invitation and lend my support to the Birds on Farms project. This region of Queensland is home to many threatened and endangered birds, and it is critically important that we work with local communities to ensure they are protected for generations to come. The Birds on Farm project is an essential part of the work required to develop partnerships with landholders who can play a key role in improving populations of birds by restoring and increasing the habitat they need to survive. The scale of protection and restoration needed throughout Queensland means it's going to take a collective effort. This project is giving farmers the tools they need to plan for conservation while also being able to reap the benefits of sustainable land practices. These partnerships are a critical piece of the solution to protect our biodiversity and end extinctions of birds, but also of other endangered wildlife. The Greens have long supported bird life in its work, both here in Queensland and around the country. We joined you in staunchly opposing the Tuna Harbour development south of Brisbane for more than a decade, and we're thrilled to see the development finally canned in 2024. BirdLife has also taken a leading role in the Places You Love Alliance fight to fix Australia's broken national environmental laws, which is core business for the Australian Greens. The fight for federal reforms that end extinctions and protect native habitat continues today, and the Greens are working hard this term of Parliament to ensure that we have an independent environmental protection authority, environmental laws that actually protect the environment rather than the profits of the fossil fuel industry, and adequate long-term funding to support conservation work.
Thank you, Alice, and thank you to Senator Waters. And there is a standing offer to both Minister Powell and Senator Waters to come and join us on any of our walks, as there is to any councillors or any other politicians who'd like to. So what I'll do now is just give you a rundown on the project. I think probably everyone's pretty aware of what it's about and how it works, but I'll just go through this anyway. So our objective is to support landholders and local communities to enhance populations and diversity of woodland birds and their habitat within a landscape that continues to be agriculturally productive and profitable. Now, Australia-wide, there's 7 Birds on Farms projects. I need to get a red marker and draw us up on there. We are the latest one, so all the other ones are in Southern Australia and over in Western Australia. You can see that the Victoria one's been going since 2017. We've just been going since the start of this year. So the project focuses on temperate woodlands, and the reason for that is 80% of them have been cleared in Eastern Australia, and out of what remains, about 70 to 75% of that is in private land holdings. So we don't look at national parks or state forests or anything like that. We just want to get into private land holdings. And the big problem is there's extensive habitat fragmentation, and most of what's left is on low quality soils, because the high quality soil, of course, is farmed. So in our particular area, and I'll show you a map shortly, we do have some other types of habitats on some of the properties, including rainforest and possibly wetlands down here in the bottom end of the Lockyer Valley. So out of the birds that use this habitat, there's 195 species of Australian birds that are dependent on woodland habitats. And if you have a look at our other banner, you'll see the one out the front, just on the Birds on Farm project. You'll see we've got 10 birds. They're all representative of the different guilds that we're focused on in the project. So this is our area. Now we basically, if you kind of think about Toowoomba, so we wrap around just around the outskirts of Toowoomba up as far as Crow's Nest. It's not a hard and fast boundary. We will accept some properties just outside there if there's a good reason. If we're going to go over 20 k's, there's got to be a good reason, and so we've got a couple of John Deerean because of the painted honey eaters there. But basically, this is the area, and the spread of the properties, most of them are, if you think about kind of Crow's Nest down west of Toowoomba, there's a lot that way. Then there's a lot kind of through the centre of the Lockyer Valley towards the upland slopes coming onto the range, but very few down this end because it's more market gardens and intensive farming there. So there's 3 components to what we do in the project. So there's a bird monitoring program, community engagement, and then habitat restoration plans and regenerating or replanting. So I'll just run through each of those quickly. So with the bird monitoring program, the aim here is to look at what birds we've got distributed in the area, and once we get enough data we can start to look at population trends. And when I say enough data, we probably need at least 20 years worth. So the way this project works is the sites that we survey are defined in the bird data app, and once we give any volunteer permission they can add data into that. So we're privately funded for this project, and we've got funding for a couple of years, but if we can't renew funding after that, then we hope the purpose of the project can continue and people will continue to survey on the sites that are defined. So we're interested in what birds are there, how they're using different habitat types, particularly there's some sites which are already being regenerated, so we want to get a long-term look at what birds start to utilise them when. And it's also just about raising the interest of conservation in the area as well. So we do the surveys 4 times a year at the start of each season. There's about a 6-week window where we look, so we're trying to do every property then. But surveys outside that time frame are certainly encouraged as well, but for the official data on the project, it's just within those seasonal windows. So per property, we can have 3 to 5 sites. I don't think we've got 5 sites on any property yet. We've just got a couple that have 4, and doing 4 in one morning is a big job because we want to get them all done early enough so you get enough bird activity. And all of the surveys are the 2 hectare, 20 minutes surveys. And so the landholders or the volunteers can help with us, and we're still onboarding properties. We haven't set up training days yet, but we will have training as it goes. And so then with the community engagement part of it, again, we're still, as you all know, just getting the project up and running. So we've only had 1 webinar that we've generated out of our project, although there are the other Birds on Farms projects have also had webinars, but we will have group sessions where we can get all the landholders, all the volunteers together for certain training, either on how to use the bird data app or just basic bird identification skills. This was, I know a lot of you here attended this webinar that I did the other day, just on little brown birds, and so that will be, if you go to BirdLife Australia's YouTube channel, there's a playlist just for the Birds on Farms project, and all of our webinars go up there, so there's other webinars that you can look at, as well as this one which will be up sometime this week or next week. And then the third component is the habitat management plans, and these are free plans. We haven't started doing these yet. Once we've got all the properties on, so sometime next year we'll look at starting to do this. They're free plans that are tailored for each property, and so if the project ceases, then these plans will go on with the properties. Even if the properties get sold, if the new owner is interested, they can look at this habitat management plan as well. And so this is something that we're going to do in consultation with the landowners, and it's just about improving the extent and the condition of the habitat for the birds. It's all voluntary. We're not telling people what they need to do with their property. We understand that a lot of the properties with commercial interests, that's got to come first, but all of these people are here because they want to do something more for their property, and so we're looking at ways to extend existing habitat or create corridors and things like that. And certainly in Queensland, our preference is for natural regeneration, which is a lot easier here than in the southern projects, where I saw one at Albury at the start of the year, and they proudly showed me these little saplings that were this big that took 4 years to grow, and I was very proud of that. And I'm thinking, well, that's like, I don't know, 3-4 months here when it's a good season. So if we do end up doing replanting, we do have to get extra funding for that, but certainly the regeneration is what we're aiming for. So then in terms of where the project's sitting at the moment, we've had 57 expressions of interest, and we've kind of paused that at the moment because we're just a little bit overwhelmed basically, and we don't like people waiting too long. So out of that 57, I think there was 5 that were too small or too far away, so we had to say sorry. And then out of the remaining 52, I think 26 we've got on board now, 25 and 26, and the rest we have to work through. But we've got 52 sites that we're monitoring across those 25 odd properties. In fact, another volunteer expression of interest came in overnight, so there should be 23 volunteers. So there'll be 15 still to be engaged, and we're getting the properties on first before we get the volunteers on, because we need a range of properties that we can. There's no point getting the volunteers engaged with, there's nowhere to put them. So that's kind of lagging behind a bit, but we are starting to get the volunteers involved now too. And ultimately we'll have an arrangement where we have a lot of properties and they'll be surveyed by these volunteers, and it won't necessarily involve myself or Alice even being there eventually. But we love doing the surveys, so we're quite happy to. So for members of the public or properties that aren't eligible, we still have a lot of resources, and these are things that you can all access online. If you go to the BirdLife Australia website, you can navigate your way through. That little Woodland Birds guide, there's copies of that on the table if anyone wants any of them. Yep, Tim's got one, they're really good. And that will probably get updated for, that was done before our project existed, so about 90% of the birds in there we will get, but there's a few Queensland ones that we really need to add in there too, so there might be an additional version of that coming. And everything we do is guided by our Conservation Action Plan for the Temperate Woodland Birds of Eastern Australia. Again, you can download that. I've actually got a copy here if anyone's interested. So that's the scientific backbone, I guess, of what we're doing. There is a Facebook page, and we do email newsletters as well. This is being live streamed on that Facebook page right now. And one other thing that we do, the surveys are a lot of fun, but they're limited to what you can see when you're there. So we do have one camera trap, and courtesy of Madeline and the Canberra Land Care Group, we're going to start employing audio moth as well for listening out for birds. So I'm just going to play 2 videos just of what we found on the camera traps, just highlight reels. So the black-breasted buttonquail, most of you will be aware, is a bird of particular interest to us. So it's threatened in northern New South Wales and vulnerable in Queensland. We've got them on the range. They go all the way through to, obviously in patches, through to the Bunya Mountains, but their exact distribution in the local area isn't really known. So when we find properties that have a lot of thick vine scrub, surveying that manually can be a bit challenging because you can't always see the birds and you disturb them anyway as you try to move through the scrub. So we set a camera trap on a few properties looking for black-breasted buttonquails. Now, this is a video from the first property that we had the camera set on, and this was at Hayden. So it's just a highlight. And that would be one of the most common birds that we come across. But So this habitat where we set it, it's not the ideal black-breasted buttonquail habitat because it's not really thick leaf litter there, but I thought that there's still a chance. So we're kind of investigating the kinds of habitats it could be moving through, as well as ones that might be part of its core range. That I found out was actually the property owner's dog. And it had wandered a long way from his house. He had no idea it went around there. Yeah, and so he runs Angus cattle. It doesn't look like it in this position of camera, but this is quite a slope. And a lot of landowners, they're using the cattle just to keep the fire risk down, which I think is a very good idea. Yeah, this was interesting, and so after I posted this on Facebook and it got quite popular, a person contacted me offering to trap the cats there. And so I put them in touch with the landowners, and they've caught, last I heard, 2 feral cats. It was a while ago, so there may be more. So yeah, and what you're going to see here is quite interesting. So, that's not the kind of habitat you expect a koala in. But just pay attention to the time code down the bottom, in the bottom right corner. Because this is 10 minutes later, and this fox is actually following the scent of the koala. And have heard they will take young koalas or smaller koalas that they can get to that are down low. And then this one returned, I think it might have been a week, 8 days later. I don't know if that's the same koala because we're looking at the other side of the body, so I can't tell on the markings, but hopefully it is. And so we had that camera there for 3 weeks or so. And then we moved it to another site on the upland area south of the range, around Iredale. And this is the highlights of what we had here. Scrub turkeys again. I mean, half of the shots of these guys, so I didn't put them all in the video, of course. This owl at night was great. That was the only shot of it we got. And they're reasonably common, but you just don't see them because of their habits. And again, this landowner has cattle in here as well. There's one of it sniffing the camera. I can't remember if I put it in here or not. Yeah, if you just watch what the joey does, it's a good little sequence of it getting in and then having a feed on the grass whilst it's in the pouch. We got quite a few captures of little dart running backwards and forward, just in front there. Yeah, and then we get paid with this, a female black-breasted button quail. So I just kind of enhanced it and then zoomed in a bit. The diagnostic feature here is the dark head. And this was quite pleasing to get it because we didn't know they were in this area, and again, it's not the ideal habitat for them either, so we're going to set more probably camera trap and audio off there at this property. And pretty much after this point, a spider decided to build a web right in front of the lens. And so then we had about 150 videos of an out-of-focus spider. So and that was it for that. Okay, so thank you. That's pretty much all I had to say. Would anyone have any questions, or would anyone like to get up and say anything? Tim, would you or Cheryl? And you're okay with live streaming?
Yes, I can, thank you.
I think live streaming goes with the territory. Look, I just would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we play here in Lockyer, and pay my respects to past, present and emerging. Welcome to the Lockyer. Thank you all for coming down, really appreciate it. And I think you would have seen on your invites, we would have been in the room next door and you would have seen out to Lake Apex. But I believe, thanks to all the applications and people who have come in, we've outgrown that room. So good on you for coming down. I thank you very much. So we are very thankful to have this here in our region, and along with Tim McMahon, my fellow counterpart in Lockyer-Toowoomba region. It is something exciting. It's a first in our little region of the world, and we look forward to growing the recognition of what we can do, what we can achieve, and hopefully we'll get some more funding to continue. That'll be really great. So I would encourage you all to keep on top of the website, share as much as you can, and get the word out with your local regions and anyone else that you know. I also acknowledge we've got a couple of officers here in the room. Martin is up the front, and you're down the back. Yep, so if you want to speak with any of those officers about anything particular in your area, please, you're most invited to. Also, I'd like to send greetings from our mayor and councillors. Our mayor is actually on a concept trip, but the rest of the councillors, when I was speaking with them, said I was coming here. So I extend our welcome to you from them also. So thank you very much, Scott, for showing us, and also Lucy. We at Lockyer Valley Council have a great association with Lucy. They do just marvellous work here in the Lockyer, and they share their work with the wider council. So we really appreciate what Lucy do for the community here in the Lockyer. So thank you very much. And Tim, if you'd like to say something.
Morning everyone, thank you Cheryl. Thank you Scott for having me down. Tim McMahon from, I suppose you'd say, the other side of the Toowoomba range, but very pleasing to see this program including Toowoomba. Very pleasing to see many landholders from Toowoomba here today and our Toowoomba region, and I welcome that. But I suppose if you were very, Mick, great to see you from up in Toowoomba. If you were very bored and went on the Toowoomba Council's bio page, it does say somewhere in the Tim McMahon spiel, struggling bird watcher, and it's true. I do enjoy getting out, and in the last probably 18 months in Toowoomba, I was very privileged, and I always forget the name, to see the region honeyeater come through, and the swift parrot was in a tree at Picnic Point for about 3 weeks, and very privileged to see those two amazing species with my own eyes, without magnifying. It was pretty hard gig, to be honest, but happy to see them, and I walk up and just look for all the guys with cameras and microscopes, and they pretty much put me in the right direction, so it's very great to see. But why I love this project, it's not about random bird watchers walking onto private property, and it's not about strenuous obligations on landholders. It's about partnering with probably some of the best habitat for birds that this country has, and farmers, I think, are some of the best environmentalists that we have, who know their land inside out, back to front. And I know your map said it finishes to the west of Toowoomba, but there are a few properties out at John Darien, and if I could share my experience at the town of John Darien with another man, Roger Yank, who you mentioned, there's this lovely bird called the painted honeyeater that comes through there, and I went out on site with Roger not so long ago, and there's council-owned assets, there's the coal mine-owned assets in that town, but there's a lot of farms as well. And what I realised that day is the corridors that you need to bring the birds in. Some of them are only a few metres wide, but the painted honey is very happy to kind of pick its way through that and come right through Toowoomba region as a result of that. So working with farmer and landowners in that vicinity, in those corridors, is some really important work. So look, we run a variety of programs that work with landholders, a variety of, from small rural blocks right up, a variety of programs, but I think this is a great one. Things like planting around dams that the farmer, would think to do, and that could be some very valuable woodland habitat. So great project. Look forward to seeing it up. Look forward to seeing a lot of community interest from farmers, Lockyer Valley, Toowoomba region and beyond. Scott, thanks for having me. It's a great project. So very well done. Great to see you.
Thanks very much, Steve. Judith Hoyle, board member of BirdLife Australia. I surprised her and said, please say something. So here we go.
Thank you Scott, thank you Alice, and pay my respects to the Yagra peoples. I'm an ex-Orby person, and I've birded around Holbrook and on the farms that are part of the Birds on Farms, you know, the pilot project. And it's just so exciting to see it launched here. What you said about corridors is just so important. And what you didn't mention about where the painted honey eater is, it's right on the highway, very narrow strip of suitable habitat, huge trucks going around 24/7. But that's enough. There's enough habitat, enough mistletoe for that bird. And I have to say that it's nice to hear the minister say how wonderful our biodiversity is, but we understand at BirdLife that the future of our bird lies with the private estate. So I cannot thank you enough for being involved in this project. It's extremely exciting, and I can't wait to see how it unfolds. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judith. Look, I just want to mention too that the fact that it's on private land and this is not funded at all by the government, it's not the government's a bad, but it's just great that this is funded by a private individual who wishes to remain anonymous, which is just wonderful. And getting into the private land is just, you know, the one piece that's missing. And I suppose another thing which we haven't talked about is ecotourism, and I know that's kind of a long-term plan with Habitat John Darien. And anyway, there's a way that all the different parties can come on board, and I think we're doing that, which is great. And I'd just like to introduce Sheena Gilman from BirdLife Southern Queensland, who would like to say a few words.
Thank you very much. I know many of you, the Bells and particularly the Lucy Group. I'm probably better known for my association with the Eastern Reciprocal Project. In 2002 we started that with 8 teams of 3 people who took a mountain. Now the farms on the Little Liverpool range came on board, and that was really exciting because Bristlebroods were only known on the National Park Estate where birdwatchers could comfortably go and take off this bird. And it was a very desirable bird to get. So we were really wanting to get down onto farm country because birds don't know divisions, they don't know boundaries, and some of the farmers that we worked with were just so cooperative. I remember them very fondly. One day going into the Plainlands Information Centre to ask if there was such a thing as a little map that took you up through farm country in the back of the estate range. A man said to me, "There's really weird bird watchers around here. Where's Buckles Lagoon, by the way? And what's this ticking business? And I just didn't get you bird watchers." And I said, "I don't get us either. I'll come and see you one day." So I went out and I spoke to this lovely gentleman. I said, "We need to do your bird places brochure for the Lockyer Valley. I live at Mount Crosby. If I have guests, I bring them out here. I get 100 birds so easily." And I feel quite bad sometimes that here we are out there, you know, in the different lagoons, pulled up with our telescopes, and the farmers probably go, "Damn people parked on our roads, we should get out of the way." So we very carefully worked on where we would put bird places for the Lockyer Valley. And I really want to acknowledge the Fowler Group that worked, Steve Wilson's parents and Steve that did a lot of the design, Diane Guthrie, lots of people that worked on that project to get bird places for Lakey Pets and for the Greater Lockyer region. Now, I think it's probably not available at the moment. We did print the first 3,000. And I want to thank my BirdLife committee. Judith was the convener before I was. We seriously make money and we spend it. We have to spend 10,000 on lettering kites, 3,000 on helping the little group at 1770 save their rainbow eaters, which has become somewhat controversial. Giving a couple of $1,000 to help painted honey eater. We're here to help communities. We have money, we're lucky to have it, but we don't want to leave it in the bank, so we do try to get good conservation projects done. What we do want to do with bird places is renew it. So we're very conscious that many of you may know good bird watching hotspots, and both Bird Data and eBird now define good bird watching hotspots. So we need to redesign that pamphlet. I've been slightly nagging Scott for the past year, but I realise actually he's ridiculously too busy. So Neil Humphreys, who's in the room today from our education team, has done a lot of work also on the products that we sell and the things that we've designed for children particularly and for schools and for education. So I'd like to get the bird places back up and make it a feature. Bird watching in Australia actually earns more money, or in Queensland, than the Great Barrier Reef. You don't know these people, they're anonymous. They just have to $20,000 worth of photographs, camera gear to take those photographs. Very expensive binoculars. They look pretty dog really. They've got plain coloured clothes on. They're not allowed red t-shirts because they frighten away the birds. Right now, they're spending sums of money, like $40,000, to take 10 grass wrens. And my son has just had people out for 3 weeks with his tour company, $22,000 to do that trip. So this is serious bird watching, and they want to take our range endemic birds, and we have heaps of them. You have to go to Youngler for Youngler honeyeater. But you can come to the Lockyer Valley and take your birds of prey, so many little bush birds, so many finches, all the farms that are looking after the creek edges, your rank grass, your parrot trees, your lovely hollows. Thank you for the work you do to not only feed us, but look after the country around about your farms. It's really super. We much admire you. Thank you very much. And if you've got a burning hotspot that wants to be in the Bird Places brochure, I'd love to talk to you, and we'll try and get that up and going again with the council. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. And just on the topic of these brochures, they are just, they're just fantastic. Now, in Toowoomba, we have one that we did with the council, and I'd just like to acknowledge Ross Beejan here, who was, well, you're no longer with the council, are you? But I believe it was your idea that we had a birding guide to the Toowoomba region, and there are copies of it on the front desk, and it is just fantastic. It's a bit different to the birding places. We decided, or the council wanted something a little bit more focused for tourism, so it's very heavily focused on photos, and it just works a treat. And we had the inaugural birding festival as part of the Carnival of Flowers this year, and seeing about 30 little kids with their brochures and their plastic binoculars ticking off birds at the waterbird habitat was just gold. So yeah, you just can't underestimate the value of those guides. And Diane, would you like to say something as well on behalf of Lucy? As I was saying, the Lockyer-Toowoomba Birds on Farm project grew out of an earlier project that Lucy managed.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to see where it's got this Lockyer-Toowoomba Birds on Farm project. And the origin of it was a 3-year citizen science project that with Roger Janks that everybody has referred to as a fantastic person who for 3 years gave his volunteer time to surveying 22 properties of our members. So, and our agenda with Lockyer Uplands Catchments Inc. is to care for native habitats. So we're about land, we work with landholders, we're a landholder group, we're about looking after our land so that it keeps the critters there. So it's habitat first, and then we get the critters. So we asked Roger to help us find out what birds we have, and from that we're able to say, well, what are we doing with our land? If we have diversity, then we must be doing something right. If we don't have that diversity, what do we need to do? So it was a critical project, but it attracted the attention, which was thanks to, I think, people like Sheena and Deb Mentors from Land for Wildlife and so forth, attracted the attention of BirdLife Australia when they were looking for a site for birds on farm in Queensland. They saw that there were engaged landholders, passion for birds and so forth, and so we were chosen as the area, and then we expanded to include Toowoomba. So we're thrilled that our 3-year citizen science project has birthed this. It's amazing. And I want to give a plug for another project that Lucy manages and has been managing for 2 years, the Bunyas to Border Corridor project, which is funded by International Fund for Animal Welfare and Great Eastern Ranges Initiative. And the idea is for us to engage with groups across the corridor from the Bunyas to the border ranges to create movement pathways for wildlife. And we have 8 target species, 4 of which are birds, one being glossy black, one being rainbow beaver, speckled warbler, and painted buttonquail, because we're looking for a partnership with the temperate woodland bird strategy there. We've received funding from BirdLife Australia and IFOR to this year focusing on glossy black cockatoo. So we'll be looking for partnerships up and down the corridor by Minister Border to work on the glossy black cockatoo together, and specifically nest site and trialing nest boxes and so forth. But partnerships are what we are about, and habitat improvement are what we are about. So, you know, looking for partnerships through the Birds on Farm program, through our corridor project and so forth. We're looking constantly to engage with other groups and landholders to improve habitat, to keep the wildlife in our corridor. So I'm happy to talk about it with anybody at any point. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Graham. And I'd just like to say, any landholders who were previously in the Blue Cat project, which Lucy ran, we've got a few on board, but we're still open to more coming, even though I've been saying we're overwhelmed, blah, 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 forget that. If you're in the Blue Cat project, the door is still totally open, okay? So please come and have a chat to me. Were there any questions or anything else that anyone would like to say? We're getting close to morning tea time. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone, for coming. We'll just mingle around now. We might maybe move some of the chairs to the side so we have a bit more room, but thank you for your support and thank you for coming this morning.
You know Peachy Lagoon? Yeah. She's ran for wildlife now. And she said, I wouldn't mind Brenton coming up. As in, coming up closer to look at the lagoon.
Tell me what your place is. First one was here in Kingston. Second one was Glen Rock at National Park.
Oh.
When you walk out past here and you go left up the valley, there's a big one that pushes to a freckled duck on.
Sorry, we'll just... Hopefully this is still running. Yeah. Good.